As I'm sure we're all aware, Counter-Strike is receiving a major overhaul into how skins are entering supply and how they're pricing the supply that's coming in. And with some of these changes that we're seeing, we might be able to pick up some pieces and try to figure out what's going on with the Armory. As we know, they seem to have taken the dynamic pricing and apply that to how long their last chance offers last. But more seriously, the time in which it has taken for them to actually make the rotation has led people to believe there might be changes coming to it, and the update in which we saw to stickers only further exacerbates that question. So are skins next? Is the Armory going to get the same treatment? So we could guess, but we can look at some things Valve has given us, albeit breadcrumbs, to try to figure out what's going on here. Because some of the precedents in which they're setting do matter, but some don't, and some things just keep popping their head up no matter what way in which we look at it. The first clue is collections themselves. Because for a long time, and what we've been used to, are map collections being a mainstay in the game. Ever since Operation Broken Fang in 2020, map collections have been in at least most, if I'm not mistaken, rotation, maybe every single one. And that tradition has carried over into CS2 with the Train and Overpass collections. And aesthetically, they're great. I think Overpass is one of the best looking collections we've gotten, period, regardless of what's going on with the underlying prices. But now we have to ask ourselves, does that still make sense to be releasing map collections? Why limit ourselves into this small range of aesthetics that we have to match for the map, when now souvenir packages might not be a reality from here on out? Before, it made sense. You got a souvenir package from Nuke, it made sense to match the Nuke aesthetic. You got a Nuke sticker on it, the game was played on Nuke, souvenirs are meant to be a memory of said game. But souvenir packages, according to what we know, you could watch my video yesterday if you want to learn more, souvenir packages are now speculated more likely than not to be discontinued. So now that logic doesn't really follow. In fact, it hurts maybe the overall prospects of the souvenir crafting system in which we're getting with Cologne 2026. Right, if I want a Nico Deagle Blaze, does it really make sense that a Nuke sticker is going to be on it? Not really. Skins.com is the newest sponsor on our channel. They have just released a P2P trading platform looking to compete with the best players in the space. If you don't want to wait that long, they do have an insta-sell feature on the site in which the rates are the best I've seen, just straight up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And with the deals you're getting on skins.com, you could start your position basically up 20 to 25%. Try out skins.com and be a part of the future of CS2 skin trade. So the systems aren't even connected anymore. We now have more creative freedom when it comes to souvenirs. So also the map collections also propose kind of a roadblock there. So in the same sense, so now that we've opened our creative freedoms in terms of making souvenirs, so it would also be sensible to get rid of the map collections which hinder your aesthetics. Right? We have Spy and Tech, we have Arabesque, and it made tons of sense for it to be map collections going just off their names. But now it also makes sense that a general Arabesque collection is released, a general Spy and Tech collection is released, because then it could be broadly applied to any skin in which you want. You take an Arabesque collection skin, you apply a souvenir from a Dust 2 match, and voila. So now you kill 3 maps with 1 stone, and as a bonus, you have fewer active collections going around. So that's a smaller number of collections Valve is focusing on more deliberately, or whatever, having the community focus on whatever, because now map collections are outdated with the news in which we have now. So now the Armory speculation changes to match. And the second clue we have is ROI, and this is where people start to get a little bit freaked out, but relax. People look at ROI on the surface and assume that the Armory must be failing. Now ROI, as we discussed in a previous video, doesn't really apply unless you have like 2,000 plus stars anyway, but it could be evidence of Valve testing out a new system, because ROI, when it is low, hurts one person and one person only, and that is the bot. Terminals have high ROI, we know that, but the terminal skins have to be purchased, which goes against the bot farming system. The ROI in a collection is a flat price, meaning that bots can take advantage of this system. By lowering ROI on a Armory collection, and now they're roughly in line with cases, you basically stop redemptions from bots, and maybe some general redemptions, because bot farming no longer becomes profitable when you're redeeming stuff that only provides you a 60% return on average. But when a player redeems something with 60% ROI, yes, it is a 60% return on average. However, if you hold it past discontinuation, that ROI does no longer apply. And although I've said bots are And though I've said bots have their positives in this market, and they absolutely do in terms of giving supply out, the change from cases to terminals and active weekly drops allows bots to still supply things and keep prices relatively low, but it also stops them from redeeming, which I think is a better deal for Valve and for you. Because once Armory collections get discontinued, there's no longer incoming supply. It's not like a case where there's still cases lying around. So if you take away the incentive for bots to redeem Armory collections, then they don't. And then supply, once the collection is discontinued, is low and stays low forever. And I guarantee you, ROI being as low as it is right now is stopping bots from redeeming. Then you take away souvenir packages from Train and Overpass, and we have some collections now that have been dramatically lowered in terms of supply coming in just a few short weeks. And now there's no reliable schedule. Ever since April 1st, basically every Wednesday's had a decent, somewhat chance of the Armory rotation happening. And unreliability is not how bot farms function, I imagine. The ROI being low discourages farming. Bots can still supply cases and be useful in that way, but they are no longer driving up supply of Armory collections, which does feel like a logical piece of the puzzle. Our next piece of evidence has to do with the fever case, because a lot of these changes we're seeing and the ROI changes we just talked about, they still, to me, at least lean towards a stopping supply from coming in as much as it is, rather than stopping gambling regulation. Because if they wanted to get rid of gambling regulation, in my mind, the fever case would be the primary suspect in terms of it leaving the Armory. But the fact that it wasn't given that last chance little thumbnail doesn't really coexist with the anti-gambling speculation that people think is why Valve is making the changes in which they're making. Because they're phasing out active weekly drop cases, replacing them with terminals, which are equally as chance-based, but terminals, as we know, hinder supply from coming in because you can just reject all 5 offers. Yet, fever survives. Now, that doesn't prove anything, right? It's just one little piece of evidence. However, it does point towards a different explanation as to why Valve is doing the things that they're doing, which would be supply management. The sticker system is definitely going to reduce supply for Cologne 2026. Terminals reduce supply in terms of how skins come to fruition. Having those things be the surrounding ecosystem and having one case that it's popular does dramatically reduce supply, yet keep the community relatively happy. And those clues lead us to the question that we're all wondering. Are skins next? A lot of people think the Armory might change, which is why we've been waiting so long. Does Valve change how the Armory system works? The sticker overhaul, the souvenir overhaul, these are huge changes. So do skins get the same demand-based treatment? It's a reasonable question, but skins fundamentally differ from those 2 previous changes we've seen, and it's that skins are random, inherently random. You don't have to open it from a case, we can learn that right from the limited edition item. Skins are random. Your AK Aphrodite, you do get an AK Aphrodite every time you click that button, correct, but it can be factory new, it can be battle scarred, it can be field tested, it can be .16 or .33 or .96 or .04. Then, you have one of 1,000 patterns in which to choose from. Your Doppler can be phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or Emerald, or Sapphire, or Ruby, or Black Pearl. Every redemption creates a unique skin. Do you really think the weapon case 1 would be $150 if the case harden didn't differ so much in value because of the skin and its different patterns involved? So your case harden can have 1 million supply, but really there's only 1,000 of each instance. A sticker capsule, on the other hand, every sticker you get is the same, functionally. Functionally, aesthetically, everything. So those are different problems, so thus we're going to have different solutions. The closest thing I think we'll get to a demand-based system is the terminal, because there's always going to be some degree of randomness when it comes to redeeming skins. So maybe we don't get dynamic skin pricing. They'd be kind of easy to predict too, because of trade-ups and things like that. But maybe something like dynamic star pricing does solve this problem. Instead of changing what the skins cost on the market, they change how much the skins cost to redeem. If there's too many M4 fades being supplied, they raise the price of the Sport and Field collection to 10 stars, for example. Now the demand cools off and the supply slows down until the star price goes down again to match it. So now the Sport and Field, even if it's in the Armory being offered for 2 years, if half of those days it's overpriced, half of those days no Sport and Field is going to be redeemed. And then they can keep ROI at a reasonable level. Maybe they keep ROI locked at 80 with the dynamic star pricing. Thus, bots don't gain any sort of positive benefit from farming. You still have your randomness to a degree, and you don't have to worry about oversupply. So it can reward early participation, it discourages bots, and it can reduce hoarding because people will take advantage of those fluctuations in price. To me, that seems somewhat logical, and it lines up with what we're seeing, and it could definitely take place. So I think that the Cologne stickers themselves don't tell us as much as the Armory as we'd like to know, but it does maybe show some directions in which Valve is trying to take the Armory. Maybe that's why they added the sticker collections first. Keeping supply regulated is going to be an important thing, because while the player base grows, going from 50,000 players to 1.5 million players is going to create quite a lot more relative from going from 1.5 million to like 3 million, for example. They need to control that supply, so when the player count goes down inevitably, maybe not even that large, to like 1 million from 1.5, the amount of supply going around is going to just create lower prices. We'll find out soon enough, hopefully, one of these Wednesdays, maybe tonight. Cheers.